Hello and welcome to today's edition of the Four Ps of a Podcast. I should say this week's edition of the Four Ps Podcast. You know, I only release a video once a week. This week's podcast episode is it is a very special episode, and I'm going to tell you why this is a very special episode. Of course, you knew I was going to tell you why, so I'm just going to tell you anyway. You obviously know that we have the the Stories of series, the book series. We have stories of children lost, stories of veterans in transition, from military to civilian life. We also have the stories of friends and family lost. And then this month, in the month of September coming up, this month of September, because it is this month of September, we are actually going to be releasing on the 19th of September, we're going to be releasing the book Stories of Transgression and Recovery. And the Stories of Transgression and Recovery, there are some very brave people that wrote in this book. And the Stories of Transgression and Recovery are actually people who have gone through, they've gone through addiction, trauma, prostitution, things like that. They've come out on the other side very victorious, extremely victorious. These are individuals who need to share their stories. I mean, and the stories are miraculous, okay? To see these people, what they've gone through and what they are doing now to make sure that people in this world do not suffer what they had to suffer as well. So the stories of transgression and recovery, we have a author. Her name is Darcy Frederick. Darcy Frederick is from Minneapolis, in Minnesota. She lived the life. I mean it. She lived the life. I can't even explain when and you'll see it during my interview, my facial expressions, because I don't understand. Number one, I will tell you this right now, I do know why she's here. Okay. I do believe in God, and I do believe that God does send protection for individuals out there, even for people who don't even ask for it. There are certain things that happen that I'm going to tell you right now. If it wasn't for God, you wouldn't be here. No doubt about it. That's it. But I will say I was still in utter amazement to see what she went through, how she went through. And then I want you to hear how she was on the other end. We'll be back right after this.
Your story matters. Your voice deserves to be heard. At DNP, we bring your dream, purpose, and passion to life in print. Whether your manuscript is ready to go or just an idea waiting to unfold, we're here to guide you. With expert editing, stunning graphics, and the knowledge to make your book a reality, we'll help you share it with the world. From book festivals to signings, this is your moment. Let's turn your dream, purpose, and passion into print. Connect with us today and make your dream a reality.
Hello and welcome back to the 4Ps podcast. Today I have a guest on the program who has quickly become a dear friend of mine. Her story, which you're going to see most of her story in the book Stories of Transgression and Recovery. She has a heck of a lot more to her story than what's in the chapter in the book. I did want her to share a little bit of that story today. It's Darcy Frederick, all the way from Minneapolis, Minnesota. How's everything going today?
Everything is great. Yes.
Good,
going
good.
well.
How is the weather in Minnesota right now? I mean, I know we're at that window. Yeah, we're at that window of you want to be there because here, you guys usually get your first snowfall here in the next 4 or 5 weeks. Is that true?
No. We don't usually get the snowfall that early. Sometimes we get the first snowfall on Christmas Eve. Sometimes
Wow.
it's different, like every year. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
It's different, but it's beautiful right now.
It has to be. And I do want to, I want to share with everybody on the program. You have been on your own since you were 15 years old.
Mm-hmm. A little bit before that. Yeah, it was still like a few months before I was to turn 15. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And in all actuality, looking at it through the lens of the 21st century, someone who gets out on their own at that age on the streets of a major city, their likelihood of success, um, and of survival is really low.
Mhm.
However, you are living testimony that it can happen. Can you share with the audience a little bit of what happened?
Yeah, so I was raised in a family who had a lot of drug addiction and alcoholism and violence. Um, uh, in all sides of the family, there was a lot of suicide. So I did not know this at the time, but I had a different dad than the dad that I knew. And my mother despised him, and so she in turn despised me as well. So that was
Mm,
not a secret. That was not like a secret in our family. I still didn't know the reason why, but I knew that my mom had this thing for me, you know. And so I was out on the street at almost 15 years old, and it was it was very hard because I still was very innocent like, and so I was scared all of the time and I
mm,
cried all of the time. So that was difficult. Um, I then tried to kill myself by cutting myself with a razor knife and bleed to death, which could have actually happened. And I ended up with 75 stitches and, but still was out on the street while it healed. So it was extra painful while I'm looking for a place to sleep. So, you know, you'd run into people that would, I think in the book I said it was amazing how many people would befriend you and betray you within the same hour, or, you know, attack you within the same hour. And so it was very scary out there. There wasn't a lot of resources back then. This was in 1974, late 1974. So I was on my own a lot. I was just out there by myself. I didn't have any shoes, so I was barefoot everywhere that I went. Even in the winter, I was picked
mm.
up by the police and I was still barefoot. But so it was not good. I look at people now in that situation. I really have a compassion for teens on the street because it's
Mhm.
harder on the teens. They don't know where to go for help.
No, and you know, as a parent, and child abuse is horrible. Um, but your child abuse was every hour. I mean, there are people who get abused, and they get hit on a Tuesday, but they may have time to heal, and then they won't get hit again until Saturday.
Mhm.
But you, on the other hand, you every minute on the minute, not even every hour on the hour, every minute on the minute while you were out on those streets, your parents were abusing you. They weren't there, but they were there. I mean, you are a 14, 15-year old, okay? And you had to make literal, not just daily adult decisions. You had to make life or death decisions every minute on the minute. With that, you were in absolute survival mode. A lot of people will listen, and you just said you have a lot of compassion. You just opened my mind up to something when it comes to homelessness, and not only in the United States but around the world, that we don't know. Everybody has a story that's going to break your heart. Okay, that's a
Yeah,
song actually
everybody.
by, yeah,
Hmm.
that's a song by Amanda Marshall. I took her title, but uh, that is what happens on the street. We are making assumptions. So now we're looking at you. Okay, you are kicked out of the house because your parents despise you. I'm sure you're looked at by cops and everybody else as a delinquent, somebody who, just made the wrong decisions and stuff like that, and was defiant at home, and maybe they deserve to get kicked out. And plus, back in the 70s and 80s, that was a more acceptable response than it is here in 2025.
Yeah.
Um, how
It's
did you,
funny.
yeah,
It's
how
funny
did
that
you
you should say
survive?
that.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I, it's funny that you should say that because yes, sometimes I was looked at as just a delinquent, but most of the time I would get, "What are you doing out here?" Like they didn't understand, how did you get here? You know what I mean? I looked like a baby. I think I even
Hmm.
sent you a picture of the
You
year
did.
before I went homeless, and I still can't. I look at it and go, I was just a looks like such a baby. Um, so there were times where the police would pull me over and throw me into St. Joe's, but you could only stay there for 2 weeks and then you're back out on the street. But they too were like, "What? How did you get here?" You know. So it wasn't quite like that until later, until I was picked up by a man who was going to help me. And that's when he got me into stripping. And that was when I was 15. So that was difficult. I still had the stitches in my arm at the time that he picked me up, so I had to cut them out myself, and they just split right back open again. So I have a big scar to this day. But um, so I did everything to sabotage my life because I didn't want to be here anymore once I was
Hmm.
out there. And the hard part, even with being afraid of who's going to hurt me if I fall asleep, it was the fact that I had not eaten for many, many days at a time where I felt like I was just going to die. And I was so skinny and little that it took me a long time to come back from that once I was able to start eating again.
Yeah. So this man who decided I'm going to help you and make you a stripper, that doesn't sound like a lot of good help. I mean, it got you off the street, but I
Yeah.
mean, it is, and I don't know, I'm going back to, when I was younger. I know, laws were different back then. How did they get you? How did you at 15? How did you become a stripper?
Well, he
That
took me
Yeah.
to the basement of his house, and I lived in the basement for just a short time, and then all of a sudden I'm being transported to this place, and I'm told that I need to go talk to the boss in there. And so they knew I was really underage because the women there were way older than me, so I was the only one that was that young. um, I had a fake ID given to me which looked nothing like me, and he knew I was 15. And so he named me Miss America for a while because I was so young. I did not know what I was doing. I was really scared, and it was a whole new world of weird for me. It wasn't just stripping. You had to sell champagne to the men, sit with them while they groped you, and it just my whole innocence was lost after that.
Mentally.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm going to ask, um, what did that do to you, um, psychologically, as a person? Like, you go home. I mean, the average 15, 16-year old, I mean, I'm going back and thinking about my life at 15, 16 years old. And, whatever I thought was miserable is not miserable. Okay. I'm sorry. I had a great childhood. Um, I mean, and I think anybody, I would say the vast majority of the people listening to this podcast right now will probably go back to 15 years old and said, you know what? I thought I was living in hell at 15, and I'm listening to Darcy right now, and that's not the case at all. Um,
Well,
what did that?
everyone
What did?
has a
Go ahead.
story. Everyone
They
has a
do,
story.
they
Yeah.
do. But what did that do? Here you are, even when you're being rescued, you're being exploited. You are, as far as human development is concerned, you're not. That's not what we are supposed to be doing at 16, at 15.
No.
So your development is being suppressed. as far as like your social and cultural and educational developments being suppressed. How did you feel, if you can go back to that day? And I usually hate the word "how do you feel," but this phrase. But how did you? What was going on in your mind?
I couldn't stop crying. I would cry all of the time, and then the man that I was with would start really beating on me so that I would become strong, as he put it. This will make you strong, is what he would say. And unfortunately, it would go too far and he would injure me so bad that I would be in the hospital with mega stitches in my head and a shaved head and all that kind of thing. There was many things that happened that were due to me crying all the time. Like I wanted to go home. I didn't want this. This was not what I just was miserable. I wanted to die. I would try to kill myself, when no one was around. I'd taken a bottle of pills or something, but I could try to do everything I could to end my life so I didn't have to be there. That was tough. That was tough, but for some reason through all of this, throughout the years, I kept a really soft heart, and I have no idea how
Yeah.
that could have happened. Yeah.
No, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, in a conversation. But you did. You had two choices, and you obviously chose the right one. Um, so teenage years difficult. Let's go into your early adult years.
Yeah,
Was
they
there?
got
Yeah,
even worse, actually. They got worse because I was then a full blown addict. Back then, crack came out. And so I was highly addicted to crack and snorting cocaine. And honestly, I'm going to be honest here. I have barely a septum in my nose from snorting coke. There's almost no septum at all. And that causes a lot of problems. So don't do it. Um, but it was just, I had to stay high. I would drink, I would do drugs so that I could get on the stage. Otherwise, I couldn't get up there. And if I didn't do that, he would put me out on the street. And that did happen to me. And I was so scared to get into someone's car because I thought that they would kill me.
so this is
And
the same
so, yeah,
guy. So
yeah.
even from teenage years to your young adult years, same guy.
Yes, actually, he was not a boyfriend. He was called a pimp back then, and he had many women. He had multiple women, and he would bring us all to the bars together so he could. That's what they did back then, all of
Yeah.
them. Hmm. But they were violent. They were really violent.
Anything? I mean, and I'm really trying to get. Is there anything in your 20s, 30s that you could look back and say that was a good time?
Yeah, there were times where there were some good memories, yes. When I had my daughter, I got away from this man and I had this wonderful time alone with my daughter when she was a baby. Of course, that's another story that's in the book
Hmm.
about having the birth of my child by myself. But um, so, yes, I have some good memories, and I always looked at the bright side of things. And I did get stronger, to be honest with you. So I did get stronger and I would fight back and not just allow things to happen to me. But unfortunately, that would make things worse many times because
Hmm.
like he would resort to a harsher form of violence than, if I tried to fight him back. So I did get very injured many times, that I shouldn't be here right now. So
What happened to that guy?
I had not heard. I when he tried to take my life that one time where I was no longer breathing, and some people think that that God breathed life back into me, that I was dead actually because He left me for dead and I was no longer breathing, and so that's a story there. But in 2023, he reached out to me on Facebook Messenger after the Lord told me to pray for him 3 days prior, and I thought, okay. So I prayed for him. I had not thought about him for years and years and years. And 3 days later, he messaged me on Facebook Messenger asking me to forgive him for what he did to me, and that he had been having nightmares of killing me recently that wouldn't go away. So I just said, I forgive you. And I put the phone down.
That was it.
Yeah, and I knew that the Lord was doing a work in his life. So I just said out loud, Lord, it was worth it because I know you're working in his life. But he wasn't the only one that committed a lot of violence. I had different boyfriends after him that were so violent that I absolutely should not be here.
You know,
No.
you shouldn't. Going back to your parents,
Mhm.
um, and I usually, I'm always that guy like, hey, you got to take personal responsibility and don't blame it on your parents. I am going to go ahead and break that rule today, and I am going to blame this on your parents. Um,
Yeah, I don't think they knew what they were doing.
no, well,
They
okay,
had a
go ahead.
different life as well. I mean, my dad was raised with a house. He had they had 9 kids, and most of them were heroin addicts. And but my dad was not. My stepdad. I didn't know I had another dad until later. And ironically, recently I found out I have 13 brothers and sisters, so I've been able to meet some of them.
That's
But
good.
yeah, it's really good. But my son says the same thing. My son, who is now 34, he says just what you say. He says,
Hmm.
no, they were instrumental in what happened to you. They have
Oh
to,
yeah.
they're not here anymore, but he is, I'm like, I don't want to dishonor my parents. And he's like, Mom, they were instrumental in what happened to you. That needs to be said.
And I am going to side with your son. I'm also going to take the political stance and side with you as well. Um, that sounds just like I should run for office right there, right? The way I said that. But it is your parents started a cycle, okay? Your mother started a cycle by letting you leave the house because she didn't like her decision. You're going to pay for her decision. Her decision was to choose the father that you had. She didn't like the father that you had, so now she's going to sit there and blame her decision on you, and that was wrong. The harshness of your punishment, of the hatred of your mother's hatred of your father, really played a role on everything you do. However, the funny thing is every single thing that you've talked about at the end of all of these stories with you, it ends in forgiveness. This happened, this, and then I forgive. This happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, and now I forgive. Um, that is something as a I went through something. I think we've discussed it before. That is something that forgiveness is something that I have a problem with sometimes.
It's
I don't even want to say sometimes, all
not
the
easy.
time. It is not
It's not
easy.
easy.
Whatever happened, I know you honor and you are. I don't care what even the Bible says this. The Bible says honor your mother and thy father. It doesn't say honor your mother and thy father if they're good. It just says honor thy mother and thy father, and your days will be good. And your days will be you'll have long days on the earth. I paraphrase that last part. Whatever happened, what was there any closure with your parents?
Yes. Yes. The Lord used me to bring them both to Jesus and later in life in 2019 and in 2022. My stepdad died in 2019. And before he died, we had talks when I was helping to take care of him. And he said, I just want you to know, and you'd have to know him. He was a truck driver, with the muscles hard, grew up hard, hit first, hit you with a belt first, talk later, that kind of a guy, deep voice like thunder. And so I was always afraid of him, but yet I loved him. He told me, I want to tell you something. I'm sorry for everything that ever happened to you. I wanted to help you when you were homeless, but your mother wouldn't let me. And I'm most proudest of you because you had it the worst and you made something out of yourself. And he said, it's worth me dying to be able to spend time with you right now and tell you how much I love you. And I just broke down. Yeah.
Mm. You
And my
know,
mother did not do that. She still despised me till the day she died.
so what
But
did you
that
do
was,
with
I
that?
knew that when I was like 3. I knew that when I was 3. I just didn't know why.
So what did you
Um,
do with that?
Brought
You
her
said
to
you
the
had,
Lord. I brought her to the Lord and she received the Lord before she died.
so you
And I knew
basically
she
you
went to heaven. Yes.
so basically you said we will resume our relationship when I see you again.
I told her I forgive you. I needed a mother, but because the Lord told me to go there and forgive your mom, and I said, I don't hold a grudge against my mom. And he said, this is not an emotion. This is an act. Go forgive your mother. And that's the first time I'd ever heard that statement. So I went there and I took her hand and I immediately started sobbing because it must have all just came back to me. And I said, Mom, I really needed a mother and I wish you would have been there, but I forgive you. And I felt this physical weight come off my shoulders that I'll never be able to explain. It was spiritual, but it came off my physical shoulders and it was gone. And it was quite amazing what happened, but I was able to tell her about Jesus and that he would, if you want him, you can have him right now, and your home will be heaven. And she received him, and it was really good.
She ever say
So
anything
it
to
was
you?
worth it.
Did she? She ever apologize?
No, no, my mom was too far gone at that point.
To say anything?
When she could talk only a little, but um, she did punch me. Oh my God. When
Can
I
I?
first told her about Jesus, she turned around and punched me. But
Wow.
so I
You're
said, "Oh, that's the mom I know and love." But no, she came around, and I could see in her eyes when she'd look at me and she couldn't speak anymore, tears would fall down her face.
yeah.
That was the first time I ever seen my mom cry.
I'm going to tell you um to live the life, and I'm not going to share everything. It's in the book.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're going to be doing other interviews as well. But you are so unique in the way that the story, the extremities that you had to deal with, yet at the end of the story, you always see, like you said, I always look on the bright side, all these other things. You see the good in people. You know that you're on a mission. We were talking a little bit about Joan of Arc a little while ago, and yes, there's a painting behind that has you on it. But I thought of Joan of Arc the moment I saw it. Joan of Arc was a warrior. Joan of Arc was a outstanding woman of God. She started at a very young age as well, and she changed a lot of hearts. Right now, I will be honest with you. Even in this, I'm supposed to be the podcast uh, uh, um, host, but I will be honest with you. You are dealing with issues that even I have. There are certain bits in my life that I'm kind of pissed off. Okay, and to hear
Yeah.
you, to know that as much as what you've gone through, that you're still on that mission, and regardless of what was done to you, you still have to complete that mission. it
Yeah.
is it is the epitome of strength, is the epitome of love, and leads me to another question. You talk about your son, you talk about your daughter.
Mhm.
How is your mothering, how is that compared?
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, you don't really have to do much to be a better mother than your mother. I can't. I'm sorry to say it like that, but how is your mothering and your parenting different?
Um, it's only by the grace of God that my daughter, my two sons are so close. And we really are. And because they saw the trauma was on my life for a long time. You don't realize this. People talk about, oh, deliverance, and then, you get saved and it all goes away. That is not
Mm-mm.
the case. Trauma stays on you until it's dealt with. And I didn't realize I had so much of it. And because the people that I actually trusted out there on the street were the ones that betrayed me the most, that were heartbreaking. And that's kind of another book, because the Lord brought them into my life much later, and I brought them to the Lord. Wow, how does that happen? I don't know, but it did. So that is what makes it worth it. That's what makes everything go away. Do you know what I mean? It makes it worth it. But my kids, they are very close to me. They know about most of this. They knew that I had dealt with drug addiction. They knew that I had been a stripper. They didn't know all of it, but they, all of us love each other very much, and they're
Beautiful.
very grounded. My son is an astrophysics major in Phoenix, and so he's got a couple more years left to get his PhD in that. And then my other son is a musician in every sense of the word. And then my daughter is a hairstylist. But we're all very close.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That is it's a great story. Um, again, the epitome of strength right here. You're seeing it on this podcast. Darcy Frederick. Um, I again, like I said, I don't know what to say because your story is just it's powerful, it's sad, but it is there's I guess I have some sense of hope, some sense of joy because you embody the absolute good in people. Now, granted, it was because of the grace of God the whole time, and
Hmm.
God,
Hmm.
and and there's no way in the world a 14-year-old girl um, makes it in a big city for so long without God literally having angels camped on around you while you're sleeping on those streets. There is
Hmm.
no way. There is no way, especially back then. The human psyche, humankind is not good, especially when it's out on the street. After about 11 o'clock at night, the humankind is not good at all. And for you to sleep on those streets in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and still be here, all these years later, and doing the great things that you're doing, there is no question in my mind that there was a supernatural, um, there was something supernatural happening to you at that time. Darcy, thank you for being on the program. I really, audience, I hope you got something out of this. And you know what? And I'm saying this to me too. Um, start taking steps regardless of what was done to you. And it's hard for me to say this right now. There is somebody I'm serious because there's somebody on this planet, and I am going to tell you right now, there's somebody on this planet. If that person was in the same room as me, one of us aren't coming out, and it may very well be me. That's how I feel about this individual. So when I say this, I'm saying this to myself, and I'm saying this to the audience. Start taking steps to have the forgiving heart that Darcy has. Start taking steps because it does eat at you. when you don't forgive. And I'm not saying that just to the audience to act like I'm all high and mighty. I'm saying that straight to myself. And I'm literally looking in the camera and seeing my face right now as I'm saying it. So make sure you do that. We will be right back right after this.
The 4 Ps of You, Expanded Edition by Trunnis Goggins, is a powerful guide to personal growth built on 4 foundational principles: purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. In this expanded edition, Goggins shares real stories of trials and tribulations, his own and those of others, to inspire readers to reflect, reset, and rise. With added insights and practical exercises, this book empowers you to navigate life's challenges, unlock your potential, and live with greater intention and impact. The 4 Ps of You is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and worldwide wherever books are sold.
Welcome back to this final segment of the 4 Ps podcast. I know I got something out of this episode. I hope you guys did too. One thing that I got out of this episode, and you heard me during the interview that in which I was talking, I'm glad, I recorded just a couple hours ago. I'm actually talking about the episode now, and that's usually what I do, because I watch the video, I watch what was said and things like that. Then maybe the next day, sometimes the same day, but maybe the next day I'll go and then I'll do my end commentary. Each and every time, that's what I do. That's how I put together these podcasts. Now, I will tell you that this episode, during the initial interview, I literally was going through something. You guys know about my daughter. Some things I don't talk about when it comes to that is the inaction by the Marion County Prosecutor's Office after my daughter passed away. I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to lay it right out on the line. I'm just going to say this, and this is what I was dealing with in the middle of this interview with Darcy. Marion County Prosecutor, it's in Indianapolis, Indiana. They literally left my daughter and my family hanging. They just left us hanging. Even from the very onset, the onset of the case, they arrested somebody for the case, and no one ever talked to us. They said, "We arrested somebody. We'll get back in touch with you when when we have hearings and stuff like that, and you're able to go." And then one day, I'm sitting there thinking, we're a couple weeks into it, and I used to work for the Indiana Attorney General's office, so I kind of know the process of what goes on and how people get notified and the distance between initial hearings and this, that, and the other. And so we were probably a couple weeks in. And what I did was I called the prosecutor's office. Hey, what's going on with this case? Oh, this is the lady who was supposed to be my representative or my advocate. There's a hearing coming up on there's a hearing next week, Wednesday. So then I call my daughter's mother and say, hey, there's a hearing next Monday. Did you know about that? No, I didn't know about that either. So then what we do is we go to the hearing, we show up. When we show up, we get called by the deputy prosecutor into a room. And I'll never forget the coldness, the frankness, and the complete unprofessionalism that I experienced during that thing. He said, we don't have a murder case, pretty much done. We can get this gun charge. That's about it. You can go home. That was it. And I said, no, I'm staying. And I remember, I'm staying for this case. I want to see this through. At least put the kid up, for the gun case, do something. And what ended up happening, and the frankness just got me. I went into the courtroom, and I remember there were actually 2 sheriff's deputies standing behind me and not behind the person who's accused of doing what they did. Anyway, I was treated like the inconvenience and the criminal and this, that, and the other. Eventually, they ended up dismissing the charges against this kid, and that's it. Nothing has ever been done since. I have made numerous calls to the prosecutor's office. I am a father, and anybody who's lost a child will tell you that you want to see justice, you want to see closure, you want to see something. And I didn't see any of it. I didn't see any of it all at all. And it was just, it was pain. It's always been painful. And what has happened, and this is why I'm going back to Darcy. I'm going to go back to her in a second. You're going to see how I'm going to tie all this in. Anger has raged and has bubbled up, not only to the person who killed my daughter, but to the prosecutor's office because of their incompetence and their complete lack of disregard. I mean, and not only are they doing it to me, if you look on the Indianapolis news stations, any of the news stations, you'll see they're doing it to countless other people in the city of Indianapolis. And the worst thing about it is this prosecutor, Ryan Mears is his name, keeps on getting reelected. I have no idea how they're doing that. I mean, seriously. I'm going to say that I have the 4 P's of you. That's purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. There's the 4 P's of Ryan Mears, and that's piss, poor, prosecutor, politician. That's all it is. Seriously, those are his 4 P's right there. And it's horrible. And so I mean, seriously, I'm angry. And so I'm thinking that, how am I going to forgive somebody? And how am I going to forgive an organization or an office who continues to justify their incompetence and their disregard and it's awful what they're doing to the city of Indianapolis, and how they can go up and talk about, the good things they're doing is beyond me. And I get angry. I'm very angry about this, and I'm not the only person that is angry at the Marion County Prosecutor's Office. I am probably one of the people who's like, dude, how does he keep on getting a job? How does he keep this job? I mean, seriously, how does he keep it? And no, I struggle with forgiveness, not only the person who killed my daughter, but to the prosecutor who is supposed to give us the justice that we, as victims' families deserve. We don't get it, and we definitely don't get it from this man right here. I hope, I am not political in any means. I have voted for Democrats, I voted for Republicans, but you know what? I always leave that voting box knowing that I better do it myself because these guys are only doing it for themselves. But they don't get, I mean, in this case, this man is not given any justice. He does not deserve to even serve as a school crossing guard, let alone the prosecutor of one of the largest counties in the United States of America. He really does not deserve that. But anyway, as I'm listening to Darcy at the very end, she was talking about how she went and she said, I have to go to my mother who's dying. And then what she does, matter of fact, her mother punches her. She laughs about it. Her mother punches her. One of her last acts on earth is to still display disrespect and disregard to their daughter. However, what does Darcy do? Darcy leads this individual to Christ because she believes, Darcy, that her mother deserves heaven. And she forgives her mother. She forgives her mother even though, and this is, I mean, this is what I gathered from the story, even though her mother kept on doing the actions that caused all the pain in the first place. And that is where I was. I was like, dude, how am I going to forgive an organization like that who keeps on doing the same stuff that they did in the first place? And I have no desire to change. Not only change for me, but change for the people who pay his salary. So Darcy showed me something today that, again, it's something that I have to reconcile. It's something that literally I walked away from that interview seriously thinking, what do I have to do? And I hope that we all, because I know as an audience, as a society, as a people, we all have that situation, that organization, that person that we have to forgive, and we don't know how we're going to do it. We really don't. I hope you get that lesson from Darcy, and I hope she helps you out in the same ways that she's helped me. Now, granted, I'm not going to sit there and say, "Hey, kumbaya." I'm not at that point yet. Okay. However, I am starting to at least reconsider, reconcile, and maybe, change my approach, change something, to that. Next week, we are going to have another author who's going to be on our program. Again, and a lot of things that we're dealing with on this program right now is things, almost obstacles that present us from achieving those four P's, which are purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. We have so many outside obstacles, even internal obstacles, that really keep us from moving forward to that next step. And next week is no different. Peter Lustig is going to be on our program, and he is going to be talking about his book, about things that he's doing, and about how he, through the power of his book, created the change that needs to be changed so he can achieve his purpose. And that's what we're going to do next week. Talk to you next week. Again, I really do hope you did get something out of this episode. If anything, just to know that Darcy is a wonderful person, that literally she could have gone on a whole nother path. And she did not. And she has beautiful children, and she is doing so many things for her community up there in Minnesota. Talk to you next week. Bye bye.